So, in the last 2 weeks of June, every year, there's a camp, a glider camp of about 30 sailplanes that show up there, and it's informal racing. You know?
Really?
Yeah. So,
She just has that, so you know, she has that on record right now, because she's bouncing back.
all right.
I'm sure she'll stop.
I know who I
Cut
am.
out,
Should
but-
I have it like this one? That's what I did. So I know who I am.
John?
That's switch identities for one
So,
night.
so anyway, it was fun. It was a good, we had a really good, I met some new friends, and it's a long drive. Yeah.
That's cool.
There was an accident, unfortunately, we had an accident out there, not in our group, but the group north of us in Nephi. The guy I bought my glider from a year and a half ago. Yeah, he wrecked bad, and him and one other guy perished in the ship, so that kinda sucked. That really sucked, actually. So that kinda took the fun out of it for a few days.
Right.
But, I don't know, it looks like he just took chances, got real low over some nasty terrain. I mean, it's not, the valleys are about 6,000 feet, and the mountains are 11 to 14,000 feet out there. And it was my first time flying in the mountainous terrain, so I was really conservative, And it looks like he just got himself in a situation where he got low over, mountainous terrain with nowhere to go and no lift and car runch. So that kind of stuff. But that was the only. But it is, what are you gonna do? It just re-emphasizes that you gotta not take too many.
That's scary, huh?
Yeah. But other than that, we had a lot of fun, and it was a lot of fun. It's a beautiful country out there. It's a long ass drive, 2,600 miles each way. It's a long way. Yeah. It's a long way. It was fun. I'm glad to see the Board of Health didn't shut down while I was gone. I was a
We
little
were
worried.
thinking about it. So
Yeah, we came close.
Came close. The wheels coming right off the wagon. No, I figured.
We put it to a vote, but we didn't have a quorum because you weren't here.
Right. They all sitting on his back.
I was, I put GPS monitoring on everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Just see what you guys are
See
doing.
where
I'm
See what
going.
you're up to.
See where I go.
Well, I was just cutting vegetables for this vegetable soup that I make about 10 minutes ago, and I went, "Oh no!"
This is
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Nice
Well,
to meet-
you
I must
guys
pull
remember when
you.
he called me? That was
Yeah,
awesome.
you're cooking a steak.
I was
What are you
cooking
doing?
a steak.
Cooking some steaks.
He's just grilled on the coal pan, cooking some steaks. And what are you doing? I'm sitting at the town hall. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I'm supposed to be there, right?
That was hysterical.
Yeah.
Freaking Jim. Oh, he sucker punched me on that.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
he
yeah.
loved that.
Oh yeah, he sucker punched me on that. That was beautiful. Yeah.
Diane?
Hi. What'd you say about JetBlue, John?
Oh, JetBlue's great airline.
Okay, I've never flown JetBlue.
Oh, they're fine. Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna try it for the first time. I don't like it.
No, they're awesome. Yeah, good, yeah, fine.
Preacher comforts.
I would ride on them in a second or send anybody I know. Yeah, they're good airline.
I got a lot of stuff, so. Okay, are we ready?
I guess so.
Are you willing and able?
Why don't you hang on?
It's already on.
Oh,
Oh, you're on? You're on already? Okay.
We're on already? Okay.
okay,
Good.
I'll wait till she gets done. Everybody sign in? How's your summer going, good?
Good.
So you had a nice long ride up north. a while
Yeah.
back.
Going up again next week.
Where you
Going
going?
up to Glen, New Hampshire. Staying up there.
Glen. Where's Glen?
By North Conway.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Somewhere's out there. Northbridge is close.
Okay. It is around 7:03. My name is Bill Fredericks, and I'm the chairman of the Board of Health, and pursuant to the laws of Massachusetts, this meeting is being taped. And we will start off with the first agenda item. 25 Marsh Road, Robert Fink. Board requested discussion related to 23 Marsh Road.
Present.
Present. Take it away.
I have no idea
idea. I only received a letter indicating that they had requested the presence. There's
Oh, I
no
see.
information present.
Okay. So,
So he, was it, 23 Marsh Road, I believe, was the gentleman's
Mong.
name? Mong.
Otherwise, I've got to recuse myself because I'm neighbors, by the way.
Mr. Mong had come in a couple times with some videos and some issues with water shedding off of your property. You're Robert Fink?
John Fink.
John Fink, okay. Shedding off of that property and it appeared to be flooding out his septic system. And we asked him if he had talked to Robert, and I guess he was away at the time. Then he come back, and I guess he didn't have any luck speaking with him as far as working out a drainage or some sort of swale to keep the water from his property shedding onto his property. So we just asked him to come in and shed some light on what his thoughts were.
Is Wayne here?
well,
I think he's here.
I think what we were trying to do is try to, as Kenny said, try to find a solution, and we had also recognized the fact that it was an unusually wet period of time, and that, you know, it could have been part and parcel to that, but then it kept on going afterwards, and the amount of times that he's had to drain his septic was really abnormal, and it was very costly. So I think we were just trying to figure out if the two of you could come to an agreement to see if we could settle it, so that, you know, at minimal expense or shared expense, that it could be fixed somehow. Or and I don't know, we had what his side of the story and what he wanted to do, but we didn't really have any input from your side of the story. So that's kind of what brought us to, well, why don't we, you know, see, because we're only going on one testimony, so to speak, you know, so we just want to kind of get your thoughts on it.
Well, again, there's been very limited information provided as to what the issue would be. This is actually the first hearing of any drainage or videos or watershed or anything of that.
Well, you Robert Fink?
I'm John Fink.
So we requested Robert to come in, no?
Right, I'm his attorney.
Okay.
Okay, so that's probably why you don't know about it.
I suppose that could be the issue, but there's been very limited communication regarding that. So there's been really nothing provided. Certainly nobody's seen the videos or familiar that it's had to drain the septic at this point. Obviously, we observed standing water, but apart from that, there's not a whole lot. It's downhill from that position. I know that the houses have been there for a significant amount of time. This is kind of a new issue, but as to what the exact issue is, I'm not even sure.
Well, we explained to you what we were told and what we saw, so I guess it's your job to go check with him. I mean, it's basically a civil matter at this point. We're recommending that they be neighborly and he fix the issue. You can't flood your neighbor's yard. It's a new house, it's a new water issue. It's obviously shedding off of Robert Fink's property and flooding out his
Do
property.
you know where it's shedding from?
Driveway.
Coming right off the driveway.
Coming right down off the driveway and flooding, going
And
onto
there's
the
clear
neighbor's
videos of
property
it,
and flooding
so
it.
it's,
Can I get these videos or the records?
he has them,
He
the
has
neighbor,
them.
so.
Yeah, I'm sure it
I'm
gives
sure
you.
he'd show them to you.
I think the reason why there's no paper trail or anything like that is because there was no real intent on any sort of legal proceedings. It was more neighbor to neighbor, hey, this is what's going on, can we come to an agreement to fix it? And, you know, with Mr. Fink being away, it was a long period of time before they could even talk about it, and then when they did talk about it, he asked if they could go half and half, and the response was no. So this is all just conversations from neighbor to neighbor. Now, I don't think they were going the legal route, but what we try to tell them is we have limited capacity, correct, to be able to make a decision on that. We kind of wanted the two of the parties to come together and just try to figure out. From what I understand, there was a driveway, was that driveway put in?
It was gravel, and then they tarred it, which allowed all the water to flow down the tower onto the neighbor's property, and it's flooding his system. Even if he puts a new system in, if that's not addressed, it will flood out the new system. The water has to stay on the person's property, you can't flood somebody else's property. And,
Even
I
if
mean,
it's
it's
double.
thousands of dollars to put a new system in, and if the water continues to do that, it'll just flood it out. The neighbors are just trying to figure out what to do. It's out of our hands because it's not our jurisdiction.
But sometimes we get placed in positions where, you know, it's a small town. You know, we'd rather have people talk to each other and settle it amongst themselves than have to go to any other legal route or something like that. So that's all we were trying to do, is to get the two parties together and maybe hammer it out a little bit if we could.
Right. No, he's here. Should I wait around for him, or?
Mr.
Mr.
Long
Mon?
wasn't coming.
No, he's
Mr.
not
Monk
coming.
isn't coming.
He wasn't coming.
No.
There is a, could we make available the paper trail about emails and, or we just let them?
Paper trail's right,
Right.
I mean, there's some pictures in there that Mr. Long dropped off. Is that a letter he sent to his neighbor as well, possibly? I don't know.
Yeah, this is from the insurance company that, he was saying that they weren't legally liable for any loss, but I don't know how good these pictures are. Can you?
Can't lose them when they're not in color.
What about this one?
Yeah, I mean, you don't really know what you're looking at.
No.
They'd have to be printed in color.
He brought
You
them to
sent
me.
them in, yeah. So again, we just called him in to find out, according to Mr. Monk, he just wasn't having any luck talking to his neighbor, and he came to us because he was, basically why we got involved is he's worried about his septic system, so that does involve us. So that was all we wanted.
There was, Margaret Bacon had, what's her position? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
I just didn't know it was that. It appears the stormwater runoff is an issue that could be addressed with a swale. Whether that has anything to do with Mr. Monk's septic issues is unknown at this time. I would suggest that the neighbors look at installing a stormwater swale between the properties if runoff continues to be a problem. So it seems to be like a professional opinion that we can solve this. And
Well, the neighbors can solve it.
the neighbors can solve
Not
it,
the
that's what I
board.
meant. And so we thought that that would be pretty easy, but Mr. Fink, as far as we last found out, refused to do that. Is that, do you remember that?
According to Mr. Monk, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as I understand it, they talked, there had been some discussion about, ditch, and they requested engineering drawings from Mr. Long, and that was where it got left off. They reported it to their insurance company, I gathered the insurance company sent a letter to Mr. Long. That's about it.
Yeah. So again,
So what did you read there, Margaret Bacon?
yeah,
This
this is
is-
Margaret, I'm sorry, this is Margaret right here.
This is,
Hi, I'm the agent for the Board of Health. I'm a professional engineer. And actually, I met with Mr. Mong there, it was about a month or so ago. So I could see what was going on, and actually, it wasn't raining at the time, but he did show me his video. And so basically, as my opinion, I see two issues out there. You know, I see a stormwater issue, and then there's a septic issue. And are the two related? His failing septic system related to the stormwater runoff, that's to be determined. You can't tell that at this time. But I could see where it didn't seem like it would be much of a problem to, create a swale to keep the stormwater on the neighbor's property and divert it down towards the pond. But that would require, you'd wanna have professional go out there and do a survey and construct a swale, or a landscaper, go out there and take a look at it. So, addressing the stormwater looked like that was a possibility. The septic system's another issue, whether it's just an old failing system or whether the runoff has caused the problem. That makes sense?
Yes.
I don't see, how much further we could go with it, and, again, it's back in between them two. So, you don't have to stay. But I mean, if you could just bring back your concerns to, of what this was about and whether or not, they can reach an agreement to try to help each other out, that'd be great. That it?
Do you have any other questions?
Nothing further from you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for coming. Local variance is 310 Putnam Hill Road.
Norman Hill? Do you have anything?
One second. You're not here for 310 Putnam Hill Road? Well, 310 Putnam Hill Road, do you have the file there?
Yep.
This is the,
The 100-foot
yeah, the
wetland.
100-foot wetland variance that's in our, Title V
Yeah, that we,
supplemental regulations.
yeah.
Yeah, you can meet the Title V saying 50 feet away. It's one of those squeezed lots, but you can't keep 100 feet away.
Is that the plan in front of you?
So we need a variance from 100 feet to 50
Correct.
from our supplemental.
local.
Yeah.
From the local upgrade,
Because the
yeah.
Thai state is 50.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mhm.
This is the one you grant all the time.
Right. Aren't, these aren't a butter notification or anything, so
Yeah.
I think, have we deputized Margaret yet to do these? We need to do that, right?
Mhm.
Okay, maybe we can do that
I
then.
thought we kinda did anything that didn't require a
Yeah.
butter notification.
Butter notification, I
talked
think we,
about it last
we
week.
talked about
Well,
it.
you did, but because this one
What's the year on that?
has that also statement that you're not until you change the regs, because it says a statement, is this new construction?
Yes.
So because you also have the statement about new construction.
No variance.
No variances on new
Exactly, so this is
construction.
why you were granting this one.
Gotcha.
The supplemental Title V stuff.
Alright.
It's all old stuff.
Good thing you're here, Margaret.
It's all
Everything
old
else in
stuff.
the plan was.
Do you have the new plan in here?
That's 91, right?
Yeah, that's all I mean, so yeah.
That's,
Oh, I didn't see that.
It was hiding.
too old.
And Margaret just gave me those back and she approved them technically.
You have an issue with it? Okay. All right, I'll make a motion, that we, grant a, variance to, 310 Putnam Hill Road, with the wetlands, distance of wetlands variation, to, 50 feet, as per the approved, plan.
Second it.
All opposed? Passed. 12 and 14 Lakeview Circle.
No, check
No.
right.
What is that?
What is that?
Do you have the file?
That's complicated.
Yeah.
If he's not
Is
here.
that this
then-
old one here?
So there's two files there.
It's 14.
Basically, can we just give him a little
All right,
Reader's
so-
Digest version of it?
The Reader's Digest version is, he is adding on to his house at, I forget, is he 12 or 14? He has
He's
he has
14.
a septic system, but access to it is tricky, according to him, or he doesn't like the way he would have to access it. So his neighbor septic system is a variance for the neighbor, and the neighbor's septic system is somewhat on his property. And he wants to tie in for this addition to the neighbor's septic system.
Should be a shared system.
But he has his own septic system for his own house, just for this,
It's in-law apartment,
This
accessory
new-
apartment.
It still falls under shared system.
You don't do shared systems. I never heard of that. Do we allow shared?
Shared systems are allowed, but there's
never-
all
I
different sets of rules for them.
Yeah, and neighbor going to a neighbor's septic system.
and the
I don't think
neighbor
so.
apparently was not opposed to him doing this.
As long as he's the
What,
neighbor.
what's he trying,
Yeah.
what's he trying to
He doesn't wanna go
avoid?
and
By
add on to
getting
his
the additional
septic?
capacity he needs for this?
He's
or
gonna-
what?
yes,
He
he's-
needs to add a line, but,
Yeah.
He doesn't wanna add it to his system because it's a little difficult to get to, but he wants to put it to the neighbors? Am I,
I don't remember the specifics of where it was.
I think
but
that's the gist of it.
Yeah.
I
Who's the
think.
engineer on it? Or is there anybody yet?
I don't think there's an engineer
There's
yet.
nothing.
Trying to get a
No.
conceptual,
so can he add it to his system, or is there no way he can add it to his system?
I believe he could.
Well, then, that's
I
the
believe
route
he
I
could.
believe he should go.
Yeah, I don't know why you couldn't.
Yeah, I don't,
Right, he needs to hire an engineer to
Yeah.
at
you
least
had an
consult
opinion
with
on
them
this
and look
as
at
well,
it.
did you not? That,
Yeah, he needs
a
a-
rough opinion?
I just see potential legal problems in
Yeah.
the future, like
Yeah.
you mentioned, if they sell the property.
Right.
Yeah, or
whatever.
what if the other neighbor
Right,
wants to do
there's-
I mean,
something?
as a last-ditch effort to keep the number of dwellings in the, as a last-ditch effort, we might accuse it, but to increase bedroom count and capacity of the system to go into the use the neighbor's leach field, that doesn't, I
It's just
can't
a-
see us
I
doing
don't
that.
feel comfortable at all with that.
It's gonna cost him twice as much money just in,
It doesn't-
and he's gonna make the value of the property a lot less.
The building inspector also was not, for that. He thought it could be a potential nightmare for resale purposes.
I recommend he hire somebody to consult with him on
To add
what
on
his
to his own
options are.
system.
He still wanted to come in and discuss this with you, so.
Well, he can come in next meeting.
But I agree. Okay, he needs to get professional, he needs to hire an engineer to evaluate his options.
Right, and if that's an
And if it legit,
option,
evaluate options,
Right.
and if he can make, the engineer can make an eloquent, legitimate thing for sharing the neighbor's system, then we might
Then
entertain
there'd have to be
it.
something legally written up saying he's got,
Short of that.
yeah, he just can't do, yeah. Yeah, you're right, that would be a nightmare.
Needs to have an engineer.
Okay,
Come up
do
with
we
a
have to
form.
make a motion on that, or it's just, no?
No,
This
he's
was
not
just
here.
preliminary.
Alright.
Yeah.
Okay. Discussion, leach field replacement procedures.
Oh, I'm sorry, can we
Skip that
skip
for now?
that and, go to him? He's at,
Kings?
no, you're at, 134 Leland Hill?
Is that
I
on
left
here?
the folder on your desk, on your, 134 Leland Hill.
is it on here?
Is it on
This
here?
is McClure Engineering. No, it's not, it's gonna have to be like other business, but it's preliminary.
So,
This is McClure Engineering.
yeah, Peter Engel from Car Engineering. This has been submitted to planning board for an accessory apartment, so I'm sure it'll come across soon enough, but, basically, existing house, 134 Leland Hill. Currently it's a two-bedroom home. The leach field is sized for 3 bedrooms, 420 gallons per day. There is an as-built on file, which is pretty recent. I think it was
He has it.
a couple years ago. Anyways, he owns 134, and then this is part of 134. The way I understand it, from talking to Jen Hager, is that because this lot does not conform to zoning for frontage, that these two lots are automatically combined, unless you want to get a special permit. So it technically is one parcel, even though there's two assessors numbers. So basically, his plan is to do a bunch of earthwork up here, install a barn with an accessory dwelling. This requires an earth removal permit through planning, as well as a special permit through planning. But the idea is to tie into that existing septic and the existing well, which that septic line is approximately 600 feet in length. And I had talked to Margaret, and she recommended that I come and discuss this with the board before anybody made a decision, I guess,
So what are you
on what we
putting in?
needed to do.
What are you putting in for, it's a gravity line?
Yeah, yeah, there's about a 50-foot elevation change, so that line is like 8%.
When was that septic put in on the house?
It's right here, it's
Huh?
2016, it's brand new.
Yeah.
It's brand new?
Yeah.
Was that, a two-bedroom house?
Yeah,
when
but
that
it's
was
a
put in?
3-bedroom system.
Yeah.
Well, was there any deed restrictions on that at that time, or is it not?
Yeah, but they're tearing the house down, correct?
No, they're leaving the house, so
Oh, you're gonna have that,
this is just be a barn with an
oh,
accessory
you're using
dwelling.
a bedroom for it,
Yeah.
I get you.
The objective is to add a barn with a like a one-bedroom apartment or something,
Right,
right?
yep.
That's objective.
Yeah. Yeah, so that system was designed for the minimum 3 bedrooms, even though the house is 2, so they didn't need to do the deed restriction. But the system is actually sized for 420 gallons a day
Right, over 3.
instead of 330, which I don't know why they did that, but so there's, almost enough capacity for 4 bedrooms, but
That's
Okay,
weird.
good.
I don't get that either, but.
And the parcels are obviously owned by the same individual, right?
right,
There's
yeah.
So what does he need anything for then? He's already got the capacity.
No.
I can see why we'd have a problem
It's just
with it.
preliminary, obviously, you gotta do your,
It's just a distance.
Right,
but
so I guess, I mean,
But he doesn't need anything. He's like his
these plans were submitted to planning, I mean, there's not really much to it. You have a, invert and an invert out of the tank. They would just tie that into the existing D-box. So there'd be an additional septic tank up top. So that line is only carrying effluent, no solids.
are you doing inverts for cleanouts, or what are you running
Yeah,
for
so
cleanouts?
clean out at basically 100-foot minimum, and then every change of direction or change in slope.
I don't have an issue.
It's kinda, I mean, it's not a unique scenario.
Where's the well again on that? Where's the well that exists on that?
On the opposite side of the house of the system,
Yeah.
probably 110 feet from the well.
Just a quick question. So it's,
Well, I think we'd have to do, if we did another system, would that have to be to the minimum 330?
the minimum would be 220, that would be 330.
Well, I guess that'd be the deed restriction, I don't know.
Well, if they put another system up there, wouldn't that be considered two houses on the same property which doesn't conform? If they hook it up to the system, it's considered part of that house. Can't, you know what I'm saying?
And they are, I mean, he's proposing
I'm
a pretty large cut up there, so he's gonna be in groundwater. It's gonna be pretty difficult to.
I mean, it's there and it's usable,
Why not?
I don't see what the problem is with it.
So I guess our question is, how do we go about, is this a full plan review? Is it just a component addition?
Good question.
Margaret, would you need to see a plan with the
Alright,
location
so-
of the tank?
Alright, so you're telling me the existing house down there is a two-bedroom?
Right.
And that's, the size of the system down there is?
420 gallons a day.
Oh, so it has the capacity, so it wouldn't, so it just
Yeah, so we
actually.
don't even have to add any chambers, because it's an infiltrator system. So we don't have to add any chambers, don't have to touch that leach field at all.
Yeah, so I guess, well,
Just tying it to the D-box.
We wouldn't need any perking or anything, you just need a full plan though
yeah,
to
just
review.
plan to show the,
Cause
the
you got a lot of
sewer and
detail on there
clean
with,
aisles.
And
Yep.
where the well pipe is going, where the sewer pipe is going.
Yep.
And then treat it as
Component only?
septic tank, and probably 2 inspections, I would say, for the septic tank, and then there's somewhere along the line as they're putting the sewer line in, you know.
And are you doing a plan review?
Yes, I'd have to do the plan.
Mm-hmm. The well doesn't involve us, the well's existing.
Right. So he may have to upgrade the pump, but that's bound to, just because there's a 50-foot elevation change, so we'll have to see what the pressure in that line would be after he put it in, but that's more of a homeowner issue at that point. Obviously, this has to be approved by planning board, so.
right, there's nothing, it's just preliminary, so there's no motion for us to make on
Nope.
it.
Yeah.
But we
And
don't-
there'll be a plan anyway that she's gonna
Right.
review and
Yeah,
it'll
right,
probably come
right,
back to
right.
us anyway.
So yeah, conceptually, it's great. I caution you, we've had these things come before us before we conceptually kind of look at something and say, okay, and then the thing comes back later and it's got another bedroom on it or something's
Right.
different. Don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think
Alright.
they wouldn't approve a
Yeah,
two-bedroom
alright.
accessory.
Yeah, just because we've had some before, like, what the hell we did
Yeah,
that?
no, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
The
alright,
sewing
thank you.
room, the
Alright,
game
thank
room.
you.
Must mention.
I'll send you an email what you need to do for a submittal, okay?
Alright, sounds good, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now we go into the leach field replacement.
I don't know.
Oh,
You're at the wrong meeting.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh my God.
But it was nice to see you.
You know what, you better run down to that one.
All right.
Yeah, it's at the very
yeah.
end.
Okay, thank
Playing
you.
around, playing.
Sorry.
Oh,
Food,
well.
beverage, for help.
Hey.
Mom,
For what?
for business after hours.
Oh, we'll talk later. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Where's she from?
Business
It's a
after,
Wrong room, okay.
liquor license for business after hours, I must be having
I had one
some.
come in for a telephone pole before you guys came out. I'm like that, wrong room,
Well,
go.
Everybody wants to talk.
Telephone poles downstairs.
Okay, well, that cleaned out the house fast.
Yeah. That was easy.
All right,
So
so,
sorry, Margaret, I was like, it was like we're missing Margaret Bacon in the room. Jeez. You know, you just see it, I don't know, I ain't gonna explain.
okay,
Yeah.
So you're going back to the
Leach field?
Just for replacement
procedures?
That's Margaret.
Yeah, we've been running into this actually here in Sutton, and I've also run into it in other towns too regarding leach fields that just fail within the past 10, 15 years, you know, and how do we wanna handle that? Just as a, component replacement, though it'd probably be a little more involved. I know it does say in your regulations, it does call for, component replacements, and it is allowed, the system is, you know, was constructed after 1978. And then the installer will be required to, have an engineer submit an as-built plan showing elevations, just like we do now. So you'd have to have at least 3 inspections, you know, once they pull the system out, the bottom inspection, component inspection, then the as-built. 'Cause I think for some of these systems that fail for, I mean, we'd have to determine why they failed to begin with, cause you wouldn't wanna do the same mistake over again and put another system in that's just gonna fail, cause it was, poor design or high groundwater. But if an engineer evaluated the situation and determined that if there's really nothing wrong with the design or the area, and, you know, sometimes systems just fail because of misuse or whatever, that can we just go ahead and replace them, you know, like a septic tank replacement, except we still have to have the 3 inspections and an as-built plan. Instead of making somebody hire an engineer to do another perk test and, you know, a whole new design, which is kinda costly.
The
I mean,
whole-
we've run into what I've seen is if something prematurely fails, I mean, it depends, I guess depends on the size of the system, so shared systems, larger systems, they're only getting 10 years out of them. That's all they're getting out of them. But a residence, obviously, we've done a lot where we've just pulled the chambers out, pulled the biomat out, we even tested the sand. The sand tests well, do 1 deep hole in the middle of it, they've taken 2 feet of sand out and put fresh sand in, and not even gone down to the bottom. So I guess it really depends on, depends on what you see, and like you said, what the engineer is saying why it failed. You know, if it was bad sand, then,
Well,
you
the
know.
homeowner misused it.
Right, there is a
Yeah.
number of, and I wouldn't have a problem with that at all, not having to re-perk, I mean, as long as, the biggest thing is, if
They have
it wasn't the
water
perk
filtration
rate that
system
caused the
that's
fail,
like
it wasn't
that, closer
undersized
to
or
it.
something.
One
Right.
system they.
You know,
Right, so
if
that,
the-
that's where
Good
the
too.
engineer would just evaluate the existing plans, whether it was the same engineer or not.
But you know, you've seen them when you open them up and there's a biomat there,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not even making it to the ground. You
Right.
know, and 80% of these systems that are 10 feet out of the ground are never making it to the bud bottom anyway. You know what I mean? They fail, they're lucky if it's a 42 down, I'm seeing that a lot, even ones that are 20 years old, stuff that was put in 1995 with the new code, it's not getting through all the sand. You know, it's locking up before that,
Right, and,
so.
yeah, I've seen systems too where, the grease just seals everything right up,
Yeah.
and those things are just,
Yeah.
within a couple of years, it's sealed, and then the infiltrators are just
Can't
filled
work,
with water.
right.
Yeah.
Just an underground pool,
You
you know.
see a
until
lot
you-
of draft, a lot of air issues, venting issues.
I see that, it's another thing that you might wanna think about is, having all the systems vented. I see a lot of these systems go in that, especially those low profile ones that.
And with filters,
What?
and with filters.
And with filters, vents and filters, I find air sometimes, just getting a vent on a system will.
But the filters are restricting the airflow, so you get
Yeah.
a system that doesn't have a vent on it and it has a filter on it.
Right,
Now you got a nightmare there,
That's
you got
correct.
no airflow going through it.
yeah.
So yeah, it's a great point, and I wouldn't have a problem as far as making it a component,
Well,
not
we
making it
wanna
a
make
tech.
sure that the tank is adequate enough, cause we changed that.
Right, that would be up
And-
to, I guess it would run through who? It would come to the board for approval, or you would approve it as a component, or how would you work that, I guess?
I would say it would, just like, it would come before the board or the Board of Health as a component replacement, if it met the criteria.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have to have somebody, evaluate
Yeah,
it.
so it's almost case by case on it.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
So, yeah, I wouldn't have an
I
issue
don't have
with
a
that.
problem with it at all, no,
Especially
to
if they got a
minimize the expense
professional
for the
behind it.
resident.
Right.
Putting their name on it and saying that
Adequate
it's,
system.
Yeah, just replace in kind,
yeah.
if it met the criteria. If it's obviously groundwater issue, elevations would change, and then.
Yeah, we've had chambers settle,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, settle in the sand, and it just lost its capacity. So we've
Yeah.
just taken chambers out and replaced them with new chambers.
Right.
You know? So, and that was a component replacement for $25, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, no, I don't have a problem with that.
So who's determining this is okay?
So it'd be the
Case by case
engineer.
basis.
It's the engineer that
It
would
would be the
determine
engineer
that.
presenting it to us, so
Yeah.
she.
You or to Margaret?
I think, isn't there something that, Margaret,
Yeah,
I don't have any,
Yeah, that's,
I mean,
I wouldn't have a problem with her.
expedite it
approval.
rather than have to wait 3 weeks for a meeting.
And she just brings it to us like we did before, she just shows us what she's approved, right?
So it would just be then,
An engineer providing you with adequate plans, you going out determining if this is adequate and then you giving it your blessing.
Yeah,
You know,
Is
you
adequate, right?
You get in your plan review, cause they still gotta show you the plan, right? Or no?
So we did the plan review and then the component inspections,
Right, so they'd save the parking and they'd save the,
and that another whole new design
Yeah.
fee and a lot of that stuff, but we still do the as-built plan at the end and,
right, most of them, they could just do an overlay on the existing plan or something that's showing what they're doing, or even if they're changing the chambers, if they're keeping the square footage the same.
right, and that's the intent, just kind of replacing what's there,
Yeah.
not making anything bigger or higher or anything like that, it's because of, you know,
Right, there's some of the old infiltrators and stuff that are out there that actually have recalls on them, they
Yeah,
have
some
bad
of them were
chambers.
defective, yeah.
right.
You know, so
Yeah.
people have gone in and replaced them with Cultex, replaced them with different technology, but the same square footage, the same footprint, and they're able to put them right in the same area.
Yeah, same elevation, so you don't need you probably replace the D-box, but leave the septic tank and all those inverts,
Yeah, yeah.
right there. Makes sense there? Okay, we'll figure it out as we go, I guess.
guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. King's Campground.
That's still being reviewed.
Yes, that's a big folder, so I'm,
That's a good one, yeah.
I've heard, so I need a little more time on that one before I give my blessings.
Well,
They're
wasn't
all
King-
done with that?
Wasn't the state involved in all that, in making
Yes,
sure
they
it was
were.
done properly?
Well,
It's
the
all under their
state
jurisdiction.
made
It didn't go to the
deadlines, made
state,
deadlines to Kings by a certain date. And they met the deadline as far as the work being done, held up a little bit with the engineer, but then it landed in our board, in our department, and that's where we are right now. But their work has been completed on schedule for DEP's recommendations.
It's my understanding the DEP wants the Board of Health engineer to certify, that everything was installed appropriately,
Mark
correct?
Allen wanted that. I don't know what DEP wants,
Oh,
but I asked
okay,
Mark Allen
so-
what this is an unusual circumstance, so I asked Mark Allen, how does this work? Do we sign off? Does DEP sign off? Who signs off? And he said he submitted to us first for, Board of Health blessing first, and then
But-
after you sign it, he was gonna send it to
Is
DEP.
it-
But we didn't have our normal inspection process, it's
Right.
all under the DEP, how can we be approving
the
something?
DEP
Jim has been
Oh,
inspecting
Jim
this all the time.
inspected.
Oh, no,
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought, okay, I didn't realize that,
Yeah.
I thought this was strictly strictly under
No,
the
Jim's
DEP.
been doing inspections
Oh, he did, okay,
all
all right,
along.
good, oh,
Yeah.
good, okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
But it's involved, so I gave it to Margaret.
Mhm. Yeah, it was like 3 different phases.
You're
for us.
welcome.
I can always give it back.
No, thanks.
After you finished reviewing it, yes, you can give it back.
We'll take these back.
Okay.
Toss the hot potato to somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's it for me then, right?
Do you have anything you want to address the board to? Because I know you don't come to the meetings very often. Is there anything that you'd like to bring to the board? Anything that you have any concerns about, or something you want to question?
Well, I guess the only other thing that, I just, sent out an email to the other, boards that I work with regarding the as-built plan, and just putting a statement, an additional statement on the as-built plan that the engineer is certifying that it was installed per the design plans and per Title V. I don't think that's too much to ask of any engineer to certify that, 'cause I found, sometimes, not too often, but that I sometimes don't think some haven't gone out to even do inspections, they just rely upon the contractor.
So per plan or per, Title V? So a lot of them
Per
are.
the approved plan, and I understand during construction, sometimes things get tweaked, and,
Yeah.
and that's fine, but,
Yeah.
but per Title V and the approved plan, so that, you don't, get a plan that gets, submitted where they make some changes, and if you don't pick up on it, or you signed off on it, it's just a way for the town to, it's an extra, safety check. that's all.
Mhm.
To ensure that, everybody does their job out there on construction and,
Yep, yep.
I know other towns, you'll find that in, well, I'm sure you do, in other towns require that statement on plans and,
A lot of people just have it on there already, you know?
well, yeah, I know, I mean, I know there's a lot of towns that I put designs in with that, I see that statement there, and you just make sure that, everything you've got is, per the,
Yeah.
what was designed, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's too much to ask of anybody to do that.
Yeah.
That's all, so,
Yeah.
I'm just making that recommendation to,
Do we have to cover with her what we're allowing her to look at, or you're
Right.
good with what we,
Yeah.
as long as it's not okay.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't require a butter notification,
right,
any of the
yeah.
upgrades, you can just, and then usually, and I think you've been doing that anyway, just at an upcoming meeting, kinda come and give us, tell us what you did, just so we have some knowledge of, but if anything doesn't require butter notification,
I don't even think she needs to be
She
there.
doesn't have to
Just
be
gets
here.
it-
Yeah,
Just gets
no.
shown to us what she.
Right, post her approval at some
Right.
upcoming meeting, just say, hey, I gave this offset to groundwater variance for this property, or
Okay.
something. I think wasn't that how,
Well, Jim just did them.
I know Jim just did them,
Yeah,
but
she-
Jim also came to us at an upcoming meeting. No, he never did that? Okay, we don't even have
Not
to
for
see
a
it.
while.
Not for a while, okay.
No, yeah. I mean, if we needed to, she could come in, but.
No, I don't have it. I
yeah.
thought that was a protocol, but that's
Yeah.
fine. We don't have to see it at all.
I didn't know if you wanted to, make a motion on the board on her recommendation, just so that we have it,
To put the statement on there?
the statement.
Cause it is different than our requirements on our supplemental regulation.
Okay, so you want it on their as-built, right? So I'd make a motion to add to our regulations, or what are we adding it to? Our regulations, or that it's required to be in there?
We can't really do that because you can't
No,
change
we can just,
regulations
it's
unless
a
we have a
new
public hearing and all
amendment.
this other stuff. Just
A
an
new requirement that we're,
New requirement.
Okay, so I make a motion that we have a new requirement that all engineered, as-built, contain the statement that the system was installed per design plan and per Mass Title V regulations.
All in favor? Let anyone second it.
Second it.
Second, I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
If you
motion
want it on
carried.
the certificate of compliance as well.
I think the plans suffices.
Right, the as-built has to be attached to the certificate, right?
Well, there was talk about both.
I think the plan's enough.
Alright,
maybe on the COC, you can just put C plan if you have any questions.
Is there
Okay.
anything else for me, or is that pretty much?
I think that was it.
Everybody good with
That's it,
Margaret?
yeah.
very
Thank
good.
you, Louise.
Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Have a
And I have no
good
problem
night.
come to any meeting if needed, so just.
We don't wanna drag you out every month, so.
No, no, that's fine. I'll leave it up to Judy to
Yeah.
decide which one I
Excellent,
should
great.
do or
We'll,
not.
we'll,
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Margaret.
thanks, Margaret.
Department update?
Oh, yeah, my turn. Let's see, I've been busy with, getting the renewals all out, or all for the beginning of the fiscal year, tying up loose ends, closing out everything for fiscal year 19 and starting on 2020. Let's see, our, animal inspector, we had a new animal inspector. Were you aware that Ed Mansfield had resigned? I don't know if I even mentioned it way back when, well, not way back when, just a few months ago. But he brought a new person on, and he wasn't gonna leave us. He was gonna make sure she was up and running. Her name was Brenda Kuchar. And she resigned.
Really?
Yeah, unfortunately. She works full-time, and she was trying to do this just, I don't know, just to help out or whatever, but didn't realize it involves things during the day. We had an incident a couple of weeks ago where somebody had bats in the attic and ended up, was a human exposure, and had retrieved all the bats and didn't know which one scratched her, and so they had to send them all out to be tested. So they had to all be brought to Tufts and things like that, so that was an issue.
Right.
And there was another issue after that also.
She just had,
There was
I
two
think
things.
she also, does Millbury as well, and she didn't anticipate how many events there would be, and she had like 6 or 7 events in 1 week. And she has a full-time job, and it was just
Too much.
Yeah.
way too much.
Yeah.
She didn't expect there to
We
be
had
that
6 or
many.
7 or between the Millbury?
Between Millbury and here, but most of them were here. There was some dog bites and, you know, so she has to go out and do the quarantine and release,
It's too
you
much,
know.
Is that a month unusual? If it's just a bad week, or is it?
Summer is a
kinda-
little more than,
With the
you
bats
know,
especially.
and the bats
But
was-
that bat issue was exceptional. So,
I mean, you know, you could have none 1 week and,
Mhm.
you know.
Bless you.
Bless you.
yeah, so,
So you have to
so
find
that's
one.
it, but, so I have to put a call out to Ed Mansfield to see what we can do, to see if he can maybe just kind of hold us over, but, it's gonna be tough getting an animal inspector, but we'll see what we can do. That's all we can do. Because most of it, a lot of it entails like the barn inspections, animal inspections at the end of the year, counting, reporting to the state. There's a state log that has to be kept up, things like that.
Guinea hens.
And you have
No
to dri-
reports of guinea hens.
No reports of guinea hens.
No?
No.
All quiet on the guinea hen
You have to
As
look
soon-
for new barns.
As soon
as
as
well.
Kenny moved in, the guinea hen situation.
Did he resolve
And
that?
then 2 people put their house on the market, is right next to
Yeah,
Kenny.
right across the street, yeah.
Is
Scaring
already
all the
out.
neighbors out of there, right?
They're dropping one by one.
Other than that, that's it. I know we had that heat spell the end of last week. I was around.
Beaches tested okay on that?
The what?
During the heat wave, the beaches
The
tested?
beaches have all been good. We had to close, one beach closed, I forgot what day. Camp Blanchard, closed one day early July, cause they had an excess. But they, had retested and then reopened. This was like, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. So, that's it. But, the cooling station, would be available, but nobody called, and so wasn't bad, wasn't to be expected, so. Other than that, that's about it. Still trying to get ready. I'm actually looking for a medical director, cause our medical director had retired. So I need to find one so that they can sign off on my vaccines, so. I'm gonna be looking at the, fire department and the, ambulance. We use one physician, and hopefully he can just sign off on my stuff, but that's it.
Fee schedule.
So you all have in front of you a list of fees from various surrounding towns. It would be kinda like homework for the next meeting or so, just to kinda, check to see what our latest fees are and make some adjustments, adds, things like that. So when we come back to the next meeting, we can just kinda breeze through them and just quickly.
Yeah, make some.
Yeah, so if we can just, come back with changes, that would be great, because there are some things that, really need to be, looked at.
Those need to go to the selectmen, right, and then a meeting and then a
We have to
hearing and all that
hold a
stuff.
public hearing, post it,
So I
selectmen.
included in their, what we paid, Jim, and now I also included Margaret's
Yeah.
fees, that's changed.
Okay.
And also, just to let you know, we may have to adjust those fees, because her fees are a little bit different than Jim's, because she charges to come to meetings,
Right.
so,
Sure,
yeah,
Tom,
no,
can't
no.
say that anymore?
So, I think that we're gonna have to look at, make adjustments in that.
Adjustment, so we average in the cost of the meetings to pass it on, and ultimately pass it on to the residents somehow. Right?
So, I mean,
Some kind of average.
we don't have a budget item a line item for her. All her, income is derived on fees that are charged, so.
Mhm.
There might be something that we can establish a fee for, right, that we don't have a fee for currently.
Yeah, you had
Who are you
mentioned
charging?
Title
for-
V,
Oh, what is this?
huh?
For-
Title V inspection.
Oh,
Like
these
Title
Title
V
V
reports,
inspections, yeah.
filing fees for that.
Is she-
Yeah.
Let me ask a question in regard to paying Margaret for a town meeting. Is she charging a flat fee per meeting, or is she like a sometimes we have an hour-long meeting, sometimes 45 minutes, it could be a couple hours, I mean.
I haven't,
Her schedule's in that pile.
It is,
yeah,
okay.
I don't know what her fees.
Fee
A lot,
schedules.
there's towns too that require, a Title V license within the town.
Okay. I mean, that's knowledge that you have. I think that's great. I mean, if you wanna just
They
put it in your little,
Yeah, I'll just put little
put it in your
additional
little notes, and that
of
can be a
what some other
topic of
towns are
discussion
doing.
and see what you wanna do about it. But again, that's something that we have to do because, I mean, she's doing a phenomenal job, but again, it's a whole different, regime. She's coming with different perspectives, so,
But it's gonna take her a while to
yeah.
swing of it too.
Yeah, and
It's a
she's been,
lot.
she's been very good about, responding to emails and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah, she's great with texting.
yeah. And we've had no complaints, and people seem to be very happy with her and everything else, so.
Yeah. Perfect. So we got some
Everything else
homework to do.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
just floating
homework
around
for
your
next
pool.
meeting.
Go dropping in your pool.
Plastic.
Yeah.
And, no more flying, so you have to be here for the next meeting.
I know, huh? I've gotta be here, so,
Well,
I know,
that's gonna-
I'll, let's see, what is the next meeting date?
So we're gonna just kinda blast through the rest of them, the well regulations, Title V. We do this every meeting.
Every meeting.
Yep.
Well, if we can tackle the fees for next month,
That'd be
Alright.
an
maybe we'll
accomplishment.
tackle the wells the following month and just make it,
Well, then Margaret needs to be intimately involved, with it. That was one of the reasons we've been holding it up, is letting Margaret get wind in her sails and get settled, because it's her, these supplemental regulations are, where Jim's kinda baby, and now it
Yeah,
sounds
yeah.
like they're under her
Yeah.
purview, she
Wells
really
are
needs to
kind
look
of new
through
for
them and.
her as well, so that's
Yeah.
something she's on a learning curve with.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly,
Right.
so that's kinda why we were.
But I think if we, maybe we can get the fees adjusted and push through too, is we
Right.
can maybe have more money to have her come to some more meetings.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Oh,
I don't think
definitely.
she's charging for
Definitely.
meetings.
Yeah.
It's complaints, not meetings.
okay.
I don't think it's meetings she's charging for, complaints though.
Complaints, so that makes sense. If she has to
Yeah, that
take
makes
time out of her day,
sense.
couple, it's an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Right.
It's right around the corner, it's an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours out of her day to go over there and
Mhm.
Yeah.
jack around.
But
Okay.
again, we can just,
Right.
Where are her fees that are in this pile?
they're in,
They're in there, so I have a copy of them right here.
it's a one page.
Yep.
Okay.
What's the next meeting date? Was it the 4th? The last Tuesday, is that what we do?
Yeah,
Last.
four.
Fourth.
It's August
think there's
27th,
five.
I think.
27th, okay.
You gonna be back on the 27th? What the week?
Yeah, it's before ours.
Oops.
I'm not gonna be around then.
You're not gonna be around, is that what you said?
I'm going, I won't be back until till September.
And I'm,
Miss all the good stuff.
theoretic, right now I'm flying, I'm
Fax or
working the
email,
27th, but I can try
Yeah,
to
I'm
change.
gonna look at it and I'll.
Possibly I won't be able, but I'll do
I'm not
everything I
gonna be-
can, I will
Yeah,
let
I'm
you
gonna
know.
be gone.
So to have a quorum, you're gonna need everybody else potentially.
For what?
I'm working the 27th right now, I'm on a I'm,
All right, well, I
So-
mean,
but I can try, might be able to trade it. I'll see if I can trade it. I mean, a lot of the time I
Well,
can.
we'll see what we can,
Yes.
Just do the
it is
best
where
we
it
can.
is. I mean, if we can make it, fine, if not,
I'll do it. I'll let you know, I'll
if
keep you
there's
posted.
not a lot on other than fees,
Judy will be shuffling around in email. Alright, you can do the 28th, 29th, or 30th.
So the 27th?
27th.
27th. End of the summer already.
I know.
Shush, shush.
I know. Is that it?
Does anybody have anything, any board members have anything, address, issue? New police station opened up,
Yay.
nice job.
It's very nice.
So we got a nice new office over in the old.
What are they doing?
No.
Fire.
What are they doing with that building?
Fire department.
Oh, really? Okay.
What?
You
It
need
says
an office at least
department,
the
it
size
should
of
say
this.
health in
right?
front of it.
Well, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay.
All right, we're
Okay.
adjourned.
So-
Thank you, everybody.